Recently, and for the first time, we've had our first in-depth gameplay details for the extremely ambitious and hardcore medieval zombie horror game called Blight Survival. It's super deep in development with a massive team behind it, and while I don't exactly know when it's going to release, you just can't help but get intrigued by such an awesome project. It looks and sounds so different than other medieval or combat games. They want this one to feel hopeless, gritty, disgusting, and most important of all, very hardcore. Blight is shaping up to be one of the most unique and grounded single-player and co-op PvE experiences we've seen in a long time. And not because it's flashy or overloaded with gimmicks, but because it understands the importance of atmosphere, tension, and tone in a genre that often leans too far into arcade-style chaos. This isn't a power fantasy, this is a slow, deliberate descent into horror, and it's looking really good thanks to all its brand new details we've just received. Let's get into it, and don't forget to like the video to support. At its core, Blight is a third-person medieval action horror extraction game set in an alternate 14th century Europe. You play as a ridden, a soldier stripped of their identity, masked and indoctrinated, sent into the quarantine zones where the Blight has taken root. Your job is to infiltrate the infected territories, survive brutal combat, gather resources, and get out alive, if you can. This is not a horde-based game. It's not designed like Vermintide or Left 4 Dead. Combat is focused, deadly, and intimate. Fights are rarely fair and enemies don't go down easy. This is more Souls-inspired in pacing. Every enemy encounter matters and panic will get you killed. Weapon handling is being taken seriously. Damage types matter, like slashing, piercing, and weapon choice will be key depending on your enemy. A well-placed strike with a warhammer might stagger a heavily armored brute, while a nimble dagger could mean life or death when trapped in tight corridors. The devs are also committed to adding both historically grounded and creatively adapted medieval weapons, including one-handed and two-handed swords, bows, crossbows, and even more niche gear like great mauls for anti-armor use. This isn't a button-mashing hack and slash. Every move you make has weight and every mistake is punished. There's also an interesting layer of session-based structure. The world is not persistent in the traditional open-world sense. Instead, you launch missions from a growing outpost, a firelit hub where your Riven returns between expeditions. As your reputation grows, this outpost evolves, acting as a social space where you can rest, plan your next moves, and connect with other players. Think of it like the Firelink shrines of Souls games meeting the squad hangouts of Helldivers 2. Customization is also surprisingly deep. You won't be sculpting your character's cheekbones, but you'll be outfitting them with meaningful visual choices. Armor, tabards, helmets, masks, and heraldry all play a role in defining your Riven's identity within the game's gritty, grounded aesthetic. You can mix and match chest pieces, leg armor, arm guards, and helm types, plus color palettes and symbolic banners. Even your chosen deity at character creation will influence your starting mask and worldview. The gear isn't just cosmetic either. You'll need to choose loadouts that reflect your playstyle and the mission ahead. But one of the standout features mentioned in the AMA that really elevates the game's sense of immersion is proximity voice chat and what the devs are doing with it. This isn't just a social feature. NPCs will react to the sound of your voice. Talk too loudly and enemies might hear you, whispers carry in caves, and shouting might get you surrounded in tight dungeon spaces. It's a brilliant mechanic that turns even your real-world voice into part of the survival gameplay loop, and the developers are experimenting with how far they can take this, possibly using AI-driven NPC responses based on proximity and volume. Speaking of environments, the variety here is shaping up to be impressive. Blight isn't just a series of forests and castles. The biomes we've seen so far are incredibly moody and diverse. Some missions take you deep into decaying villages and plague-ridden battlefields, where rusted armor and broken catapults litter the mud. Others bring you into suffocating indoor spaces, dark prisons, fungal-infested dungeons, collapsing monasteries, with pitch-black corridors where torchlight barely reveals what's ahead. Each biome tells its own story of rot and collapse, and no two missions feel the same. The map structure is also session-based, meaning challenges and threats change each time you drop in. That unpredictability adds tension, especially when paired with the high-stakes extraction mechanics. This isn't a game where you just clear waves and move on. You'll have to make choices. Do you go deeper for better loot, or cut your losses and escape while you're ahead? On the lore side, there's something hauntingly grounded here. The Ridden are stripped of name, face, and past, both to survive the spores of the Blight and as a way of severing discovering identity for the mission ahead. You're not special, you're not chosen, you're expendable. But within that, you carve out meaning through your choices, your gear, your allegiances. And yes, factions play a big role in the world. You'll interact directly with 3 of them, the Riven, the Blighted, and the Church of Eternal Dawn, a fanatical religious group that sees the Blight in different terms. Not everyone agrees on where it came from or what it means. Some see it as divine punishment, others as a weapon. That ambiguity in the lore makes it far more unsettling. There's no PvP. This is strictly a PvE game. You can play solo or with friends, but you're not going to be griefed by other players mid-mission. The threat comes from the world itself, not your teammates, and that lets the devs really lean into tension, cooperation, and storytelling rather than balancing PvP meta. They've also confirmed that there are no plans for microtransactions, battle passes, or other live service bloat. This is a premium game, a single boxed price with possible expansions later, but the goal is to give you a complete and meaningful experience from day one. Sound design is another area where the devs are aiming high. Every footstep, groan, parry, and metal clang is being designed to enhance immersion. They specifically cited Hunt, Showdown as an influence here, and it shows. Creaking floorboards, distant screams, the wet thud of a hammer against bone. Sound matters in this game for atmosphere and survival. And finally, this is a true co-op game, not just in mechanics but in tone. Success depends on communication, planning, and knowing when to retreat. Missions are designed to create stories, not just power trips. You'll have those moments where the torch goes out, where the exit is swarmed, where someone panics and breaks stealth. It's the kind of game where failure can be just as memorable as success, and that's rare. Blight doesn't feel like it's chasing trends, it feels like it's carving its own path, and doing so with a surprising amount of humility. The team at Hainier, now partnered with Behavior Interactive, are focused on building something polished, brutal, and honest. They're not overhyping the game, they're showing their work, answering questions directly, and letting the game speak for itself. Enemies don't just hear footsteps and doors, they respond to your actual voice. The game uses proximity voice chat not just for immersion, but as a mechanic. Speak too loudly or let fear creep into your voice, and nearby enemies can hone in on your position. Some are even sensitive to tone. A panicked shout or sudden noise can draw them in faster than movement ever could. It's a system that rewards silence, forces whispered coordination, and lets you bait threats intentionally. You can fake arguments, yell down hallways, or misdirect groups by manipulating how they track sound. It's not just audio flavor, it's tactical. So yeah, while we don't have a release date yet, that almost doesn't matter. Because what we've seen so far, it's the kind of game you watch closely, the kind of game that earns its atmosphere if it sticks the landing and becomes something genuinely special.